No, I wouldn't say that. Because part of what we want to do, and this sort of goes to what we were saying in your last class, Kara, where we talked about the collapsing field and the decision and discernment and all that kind of stuff, is that partly what we want to recognize, why did you get into martial arts? And I bet if we have a short conversation, at some point you're going to mention movies. And same for you. And same for the guy coming into the next class, and the same for the next person, right? Or something that you read, or, right? So the value to us of inspiration, I think, is not to be forgotten, right? But the confusion of inspiration for functional application, in which I'm reliable or confidently reliable in the face of high stakes, such as death, is the problem that we face. So again, if we're sitting around having a beer, if we're just joshing with some friends, you should really study the martial arts. Eventually you learn to levitate. Obviously I'm kidding, but like that's a little inspiring. That's a little fun. And maybe you could take on three guys at once and you get to learn the sword and stuff, right? But like learning the sword is more fantasy than anything else now, these days, right? But it's not without value. A, it is cool. B, it could help in a fight. I mean, right? C, it's really helpful because it keeps me coming to class and doing all these other things and keeps me engaged and inspired. So learning about them, studying them, and being inspired, and they certainly could help, and they're not lies, but there's a bunch of misinformation too. It's a good place for it, right? Right. When we asked my teacher about pressure points, we were specific. I'm sure you've heard this before. We were specifically asking him about these two books, which is better, and he picked them up and he did this, and he put the small book down and he goes, this one. And we're like, oh, cool. We're going to buy that book and study it. And he's like, this you could really smash somebody with, this book. And that was his whole point, like a book on pressure points is probably far more reliable as a weapon without having gone through your brain, just into your hands, right? So don't devalue the inspiration of it, but I wouldn't be studying it thinking this is the magical key. It's not. Even though I say it's not the magical key, it could turn out like in a particular, knowing that point actually helped in this case, and when they get, that's fine, right?
So, this is helping me understand. It does help me to learn about them to round me off as a martial artist,
Yeah.
but just as part of making the whole martial artist rather than making me a better fighter. So,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
kind of
That's a
one
good
of
way to
the
put it. I like
reasons I
it.
wanted to learn about them too.
Yeah.
I, I, I,
Well, I would say that you have a fiduciary responsibility. I don't know if I'm using that term exactly right, to your students because you have students. So your excitement and interest in pressure points, we'll call it, is very easy to rub off on other people. And if they come away without the self defense, not self pretense idea, then you perhaps um, uh, unintentionally pass on a valuation of them that you didn't intend to. So I think it's important to share them, but be clear about inspiration and be clear about reality, and also be clear about functionality in messy reality compared to in the clinic that's well lit with the Buddha statue, where we can prove that something's real and functions. But that's a little different than I got jumped and I have a down coat on and I'm trying to find liver 13.
that last statement was really important to me because one thing I was going to ask, what I have done